I'm not sure if you've heard, but it's been a rough couple of years for the folks over at All Elite Wrestling. Losing top stars, seeing attendances fall, TV ratings fall even lower, then perking back up, then falling again, blah blah blah. We've heard the same thing a million times from everybody, including this channel, and you can go and watch all our videos on the topic, by the way, they're all great. Everyone on the internet loves to point out all the problems with AEW, whether they're hosting podcasts, making YouTube videos, or just posting on social media. Just as often as all the die-hard AEW fans who think the company can do no wrong, constantly defending everything they do, including some of those in the media. But what if this IWC influence is actually causing some of the problems that it claims to be pointing out? Well, that's what we're here today to find out. You're watching Sportskeeda Wrestling, my name is Liam, and today we're asking if the internet is ruining AEW. But before we go any further, don't forget to hit subscribe and click the little bell icon to stay updated with all our latest videos. We're getting pretty close to 200,000 subscribers, and we would appreciate it greatly if you'd help us on the way. Thank you very much. On with the video. We'll start this video by saying that AEW was partly created by negative feelings circulating on the internet with regards to WWE. Die-hard wrestling fans were sick of one-dimensional, lifeless booking and bland storytelling that WWE struggled with for much of the 2010s. There was a large portion of a considerably reduced fan base that were becoming increasingly dissatisfied with what they were seeing on a weekly basis. So they were very willing to support the budding alternative to WWE, spearheaded by the Elite and Tony Khan. They promised them something different, indie wrestling with a budget, but also new opportunities for all of WWE's fumbled ex-talents, and a place for names from the past to get their nostalgia pops, and one final payday before they call it quits. But also a hardcore promotion. It was a little all over the place, but it had more edge than the squeaky clean WWE programming of the day, so fans were on board, and it was reflected in the early success. Wrestling fans who'd been put off by WWE's boring PG programming were hopeful for their more adult-orientated alternative. Some podcasters, who shall remain nameless, were beginning to smell doom from a mile away before the program had even launched, and some Twitter negativity soon began to circulate, because of course it did, calling AEW a t-shirt company until they got to television. So as you can see, even from the beginning, AEW was catching flack from people online. Eventually though, they got their TV deal, and as the weeks of televised programming went by, you could kind of see what these detractors were talking about. But they couldn't have known for certain that it was going to devolve like it did. They were simply being pessimistic, at least at first. AEW's next internet-related issue, going hand in hand with the slow, steady decline in the quality of the product, was, ironically, the ardent, unbreaking defense put forward by the faithful fans. Now everybody likes to stand up for what they like, but what these fans were doing was blatantly and personally attacking anyone who dared question their favorite wrestling show. They simply refused to accept that some aspects of the show, like professionalism, safety, and consistent storytelling, were becoming a problem. This only made the AEW detractors double down on their criticism of the product, which caused the tribalism in the wrestling fanbase to worsen. AEW's owner, Tony Khan, also faced criticism, online criticism ironically, for spending too much time defending the company on social media. At certain points, Khan has openly argued with AEW detractors and taken shots at WWE using his Twitter account. This isn't something you'd see Triple H doing, although we're sure he'd probably love to, but he doesn't, for the sake of keeping things professional, I'm sure. Tony Khan taking to Twitter to defend the company he built and loves is far from the worst thing a wrestling promoter has ever done, but it didn't do anything to address the increasing criticism of his product, only deny it. Tony was literally saying, "No, it's the people who are wrong." All the while, the amount of AEW diehards defending the product online was slowly starting to fall in the wake of the controversy surrounding CM Punk's departure from the company and the subsequent downturn in business. Something that itself was started by sinister rumors circulating in the online news media that CM Punk had been involved in Colt Cabana's firing from AEW. The media has also leaked wrestlers' salaries online. WWE has also experienced this, giving the tribal fans and pundits even more material to tear into the companies over. Pretty soon, the wrestling media turned on AEW for the most part, running articles about how they fumbled their biggest star and were plagued by poor management and backstage incidents. Oh, and they also absolutely insisted on mentioning the fall of ticket sales, TV ratings, and overseas business. For example, the Grand Slam Australia incident. This played right into the hands of the pessimistic podcast personalities who had predicted doom from the start. Most wrestling fans were starting to realize that maybe these podcasters didn't hate AEW, they simply knew the wrestling business and had seen those same same mistakes made many times in the past. It didn't help that the members of the wrestling media who did defend AEW, even after the backlash, were so insistent that the company had no problems at all. They would go out of their way to try and logically explain every missed opportunity, poor finish, or nonsensical TV segment, rather than offer ways in which this could be improved upon, simply denying it instead. You could see what these media outlets were trying to do. They were trying to offer an alternative to the prevailing opinions. But when you take one side over the other and continue to do so on a frequent basis, it becomes bias rather than impartiality. This caused the company's detractors to double down once again, especially considering the change in the direction of WWE's programming at the time. So with some of the internet defending AEW as a flawless entity that could do no wrong on its worst day, and some treating them like the worst thing to ever happen in wrestling, AEW became the equivalent of Marmite, in that you either love it or you hate it. Which shouldn't really be the case, considering AEW isn't evil or even necessarily that bad. They can be a little boring and irresponsible at times, but they do offer an alternative to the mainstream. Granted, it's a very niche product that they offer, but an alternative is an alternative nonetheless. They may not be much competition for the WWE, but they are some competition, and in a time where WWE owns pretty much everyone else, AEW are needed for that reason. But with rampant tribalism so heavily linked to their brand, they're gonna have a hard time winning back the fans who've been scared off. Wrestling fans have loved hijacking shows for years, and I suppose that's what happens when you tell a giant, vocal, passionate fan base that they run the show, and the whole show is for them, over and over and over again. This has caused some of the most hardcore amongst the fan base to get a little carried away, taking personal offense to any criticism of their favorite brand. It's like they're rooting for their favorite NFL or Premier League football team playing against their rivals, when they're not playing against any rivals at all. Not really, anyway, save for the short-lived Wednesday Night War, which AEW actually won. Wrestling is a worked sport, populated with independent contractors, simply trying to make their way as professionals. They're not competing as part of a squad, unless they're part of the Spirit Squad, so wrestling is based on supporting wrestlers as individuals and not the company they work for. At this point, it becomes less about what the company does weekly, and more about what they represent as a movement. But one without the other will only get you so far. The constant arguing online whenever the name AEW is brought up does nothing to help, and has actively added to this problem, like we said at the start of the video, before the company had even gotten to TV in some cases. Don't get us wrong, AEW has done some great things with the help of the internet too, with their donations to charitable causes and such, which has to be commended. But they've also at times been naive, and not at all savvy enough to fight off the influence of the toxic fan and peer voices, constantly streaming from online channels. We don't think that many of these detractors necessarily wanted AEW to fail, although some of them might have. We just think they like to get a little bit harsh on the millhouse of professional wrestling every now and again. AEW does try to fix things every now and again, but they're never given much time to operate before the giant army of detractors jumps all over them, criticizing and tearing apart every aspect of their program, killing every new storytelling possibility dead on arrival, if creative hadn't already done that. Though it is hard to have too much sympathy, given that this is a wealthy company with billionaire backers who constantly make their own problems, which they then deny. But what we are trying to say is they can't really fix it if we won't give them time, or the breathing room to actually try. If all this has taught you anything, it should be that the internet can be a very scary and confrontational place, full of people everywhere, many of whom have had a bad day today, and buddy, they're gonna find a way to make that your fault. And when you lose the confidence of those people, as AEW might have, it can be very hard to get them back on site, though we're sure some on the internet would argue that they never had them on site to begin with. And that's it for another video. What do you think, internet? Are you ruining AEW? You can give us all your various opinions on the subject down in the comment section. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling to see more content just like this. And don't forget to enable those notifications too, so you never miss one of these videos when they drop. This has been Sportskeeda Wrestling. I've been Liam, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.